Welcome to the fourth episode of Season 2 Box Score Sports. I'm Minnie.
I'm Ski.
I'm Jamo.
And I'm Brad. I'm behind the camera.
It's going to be a good one. We got a lot to talk about, short amount of time. Let's get right into it. Let's go BB Sports right away.
Oh, let's just state the obvious. Let's talk about the football team. We're 6-1 now. We just beat Browerville. It's pretty slight.
It was a good game.
Yeah.
The score wasn't very.
Their corners are nice. They're talking to me all game, and they're talking to me, but they weren't guarding me.
Yeah, they were locking you up.
Were they like talking nice or trash?
Yeah, they actually were talking nice.
That was a final score, 36-20.
Yeah, 36-20.
You got a little close from in there at halftime. They scored right out the gate.
Yeah, it got close, but
14-6, I think it was.
our offense was steamrolling them every time we touched the ball.
No, we light.
Seemed like every time they scored, the offense had an answer.
Yeah. We're just like that.
Now you guys got Bold this on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough test.
Should be a fun game, hopefully.
I hope it's going to be a blast.
Short turnaround week. Got to come locked in.
Yep.
It's going to be fun. Then last week, then you get into playoffs right away.
Yep. Playoffs the next Tuesday, and then
if we win that, then it's Saturday.
Then next Saturday. So it's like 3 games in a week and a half.
How's it look like right now for seeding?
Well, right now we're the 2 seed, but we beat Bold. There's a chance we could 1 seed.
But KMS would have to lay an egg.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah. They'd have to lose.
Long Prairie.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, head over to volleyball. 9th in state, sitting at 17-7. They had one game last week.
They got a game on Tuesday against Royalton.
Yeah.
Last one to get tuned up before playoffs.
And they get right into playoffs.
I don't know.
They had a game Thursday.
Yeah, against Holdingford. Huskers.
Swept them there.
Oh, yeah.
Should have brought the brooms.
Yeah, then.
Yeah, they
final touches.
play Royalton tomorrow. Hopefully, nice, easy dub. Get them hyped going into playoffs. Get that mentality just locked in.
They should have 2 home games?
Yeah, they should have. Yeah.
I think they should have 2.
Hopefully.
I think they're the 1 seed right now.
I would assume. Look at their section. Who is it? Next best team is probably a Christian school.
I don't know. I don't know who's in that section.
No, I'm pretty sure the second team in their section is a Christian school, and the third I'm pretty sure is a school of the blind. All right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So they should have a good run in playoffs. Be ready for that. Fans, come out, support.
Absolutely. I don't know if we have any themes yet, but
We'll let you know.
Yep.
We'll let you know on our Instagram or somewhere.
on the school Twitter. But until then, come out, support. It's going to be a lot of fun. Best time of the year now for the fall sports.
Yep.
All right. Now we head into our Colton Iverson interview, which is going to be a good one.
It's going to be exquisite. You better stick around and watch that.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, let's head right into it.
Let's go.
Alrighty, now we are getting into the interview portion of this podcast where we have Colton Iverson joining the podcast. Thank you for joining us, Colton.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we'll just hop right into it. We know that you played a lot of basketball growing up. Was that your only sport that you played in high school?
In high school, yeah, that was my only sport. I played football until 8th grade, and then I just started focusing on basketball. I figured I'd probably get my knee chopped off if I kept playing football. I was too tall and too skinny to keep playing in high school.
Yeah.
Only basketball in high school.
What was the recruiting process like when you were in high school?
I have to imagine it's a lot different than it is today. There's only certain periods where coaches could contact you. I was fortunate enough to have enough interest coming from a small town in South Dakota. So it was good to have a lot of interest coming out of high school. But, yeah, it's a little different scale trying to get noticed where, some of these kids coming from the East Coast or West Coast or big cities. But it was an interesting process and something that I think has changed a lot these days. I think it's a little bit more showboat and stuff like that. But yeah, it was an interesting process to be a part of.
Right.
For sure. When you're in college ball, how was it playing in March Madness?
It was a lot of fun. everything kind of changes from when you're in your regular season and you're going to Big Ten games or Mountain West games and then having home games. And then all of a sudden you have the conference tournaments and you're staying at 5-star hotels and you got police escorts to the games. And then once you get to March Madness, which I was a part of 3 times, 2 at Minnesota and once at Colorado State, it's a whole nother level. They really take care of you and treat you well. And I'm sure it's much different nowadays, but it made you feel pretty big time, almost like you're in the NBA, I'm sure,
Yeah.
with how well they treated you and they gave you gifts. I think back in the day, it was those little portable PlayStations you keep in whatever their PSPs or something.
Yeah.
Thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was a cool experience to be a part of.
Yeah, I bet.
So taking it back to like the recruiting, what was it like playing for Coach Tubby Smith, and did that play a role in you choosing to go to the Gophers?
Yeah, absolutely. Tubby was a great recruiter. He's the main reason I went to the U. Obviously, it's close to home, and I was a Gophers fan growing up. But when they hired him, it was my senior year of high school, was his first year there. And Minnesota was already recruiting me, and my name was on the whiteboard when he walked into his office his first day there. And so he started taking a look, and he kept recruiting me. So that was pretty cool. And I took visits other places. I think it was Minnesota, Nebraska, Florida, Cal, because you only get 5 official visits back then. I don't know if it's changed now. And it was pretty cool getting recruited by Tubby. I remember taking my visit to the Twin Cities, and he took us to the Capitol Grill, which is a nice steakhouse, and going to his house right on the Mississippi was pretty cool. And he was just a great person, great recruiter. My parents fell in love with him. So he was definitely one of the main reasons that I went to the U.
Right. Was it a hard decision to leave the Gophers and transfer to Colorado State?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult and very risky, I would say, too. But I just felt like I had more to offer to a different team. I started the majority of the games as a freshman and sophomore at the U, and then Tubby started bringing in some pretty big-time recruits. So it was after my junior year, I wasn't contributing as much, and I just felt like looking for a different opportunity to get me to the next level. And so I started reaching out, and it was really hard going into Tubby's office and telling him, hey, I'm interested in transferring. And he obviously was a little upset with it too, because I was kind of one of the foundations of his program.
Right.
But it worked out in the end. There's no hard feelings. And I still love the Gophers. I'm a big Gopher football fan, basketball, girls basketball, volleyball, everything. And part of me wishes I would have stayed, but I don't think I would have got to the next level if I stayed, just with the opportunity I was getting at the U.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in the end, it worked out good for you.
It did. It worked out great.
So you played basketball all around the world. What's just the best part of doing all that?
I think the best part is I was going to parts of the world that I never thought I had imagined ever going to. I lived in 7 different countries in 9 years. And when I was in college, my whole dream was the NBA, the NBA, the NBA. It was NBA or nothing. And I never imagined having the career I had overseas that I did. I didn't even know it was possible. I knew nothing about European basketball. Yeah. But some of the places I've been with my family, it was a really cool experience to be able to travel all over the world and play basketball in all different parts of the world.
What would you say is like your favorite like country to play in or area to go?
So one year I lived in Tel Aviv, Israel, and it's a beautiful country. They're right on the water. The whole country is right on the water, and the weather is 80 degrees all year long. We lived 5 minutes from the beach. So, and on top of that, it was basically an NBA organization in the Euro League. They had one of the nicest gyms I've ever played in. Great fan base. They're very professional. They treated you well. And on top of that, the city was perfect. They had the best food, best people. Almost everybody spoke English. So I would say that was my favorite city and country to live in.
For sure.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. What was the hardest part about traveling all around the world?
The hardest part, I would say, well, first, me and my wife, we had got a bulldog when we were in college. She was my girlfriend at the time, but we bought an English bulldog. And so when she started coming overseas, we had to get him approved to fly in the airplanes. But of course, English bulldogs you can't put under the plane. So she got him certified as a emotional support dog. And I'll tell you, she spent hours every year getting the paperwork done for that to get him to be able to fly overseas with us. And then I would say after that, the last 3 years with COVID was the toughest part. The visas and border closures and all that. So I think that was pretty exhausting and kind of almost what led me to retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you just take us through the moment when you got drafted coming out of college into the NBA?
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy day. Something that, so I actually met with my agent and I signed with my agent on Easter after my senior year. And he had a whole plan for me. So I think I had 19 workouts with 19 different NBA teams from the time the season ended till the NBA draft. So I worked out with more than half the NBA teams and put in a lot of work. I was pretty much in a hotel every single night. It was 5 days a week, 5 different cities. I was working out against the other top 60 draft picks at each team. So I felt like me and my agent had a good game plan to how to get me drafted, and I had some pretty good workouts. So I think that's what kind of led me to getting drafted. So the night of the draft, we had a big party because my agent was confident I was going to get drafted. He knew there's several teams that were interested if I was still going to be available at a certain time. And he had called me the day of the draft and said the Celtics are trading up to get the 53rd pick. And it was kind of a surreal moment, something that you work hard for and you dream of, but you don't know if it's reality, especially me coming from South Dakota.
Right.
But it was one of the coolest, a night I'll never forget. And I had my friends there, my family, all my hometown was there after I got drafted. So it's pretty cool, something I'll never forget.
For sure.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the biggest difference from playing like high school ball to college ball and then to pro ball?
From high school to college is, man, people are strong.
Yeah.
I think when I left high school, I wasn't over 200 pounds. And my first summer at the U, they were they were mixing protein powder with creatine, with raw eggs. And my strength and conditioning coach at the time, Cal Dietz, he wouldn't let me go to summer school classes until I had finished like a 20, 30 ounce drink of this nasty protein and raw eggs. And so that summer I put on 30 pounds and I needed it. I was too skinny. And still, even after I weighed 230, 240, I was still undersized at the time. So at that point, I realized I needed to get stronger. And the game is faster. Obviously, now there's shot clocks in high school, but back then there wasn't in most games. And then from college to the pros, I only played with the Celtics 3 summers in summer league. And it's good basketball. It's a lot of up and down, a lot of guards controlling the game. So you kind of just set screens and you're uninvolved, it kind of felt like. And I would say NBA to overseas. Overseas is very physical. There's no easy baskets, and there's no defensive 3 seconds like there is in the NBA. So it's tough to get baskets in the lane, whereas in the NBA, everybody's just going down the middle and dunking, and it's pretty easy to get baskets. That's why I think the difference between European basketball and NBA is so high scoring because of that defensive 3 seconds, which is a great rule. It makes it entertaining. A lot of people like watching people score. So it's a good rule to have, but I'd say that's the big difference between NBA and European basketball.
Right. For sure.
What did your day look like as a college basketball player?
Uh, so at the U, I would say, once basketball season, once practices start going, I remember being up 5:30, 6 in the morning, having our weight strength and conditioning program, get that done. And then most people had classes by 8. So you'd have to go straight from the arena to class. And normally practice is, late afternoon. And so I would say 3 or 4 classes a day, depending on what grade you are and how far you are on schedule to graduate. Um, and then my senior year at Colorado State, I was fortunate enough to almost have my degree. So I was only enrolled in 13 credits, but I only needed like 6 to graduate. So my last semester of my senior year, I was basically going to basketball practice and weights and maybe one class twice a week or something. So it's pretty easy.
That'd be nice.
Sounds pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
What was a day in the life like as a pro player compared to college?
A lot of free time. When you become a pro, it's so much different from when you're in college, just because when you're in college, you have, you know, other sports to go to, you have classes, you're always busy with something. Recruiting visits, you're hosting a recruit that's coming in. And then once you go pro, you have maybe weights, but now in the modern day, weights is 30 minutes and you're done. And practice is cut short because of all the injuries and you got to protect your players.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at the arena for 2.5, maybe 3 hours, 4 if you got film with a big game coming up, and after that you're free the rest of the day. So you got to find time to stay busy when you're a pro, but be productive and not harm yourself in any way or do anything dumb. Got to eat right and take care of yourself, and a lot of guys need to stay out of trouble. I've had teammates that get into trouble,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a lot more free time when you're a pro, besides the travel in the season, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, did you have like any mentors growing up?
Uh, my mentor growing up would be my dad. Like when I was in high school and college, he was a former college basketball player. He was drafted by the Seattle Supersonics, who are now Golden State. Um, and then he's an athletic director and basketball coach, or was. He just retired from that. So I would say I got a lot of advice from him growing up. And then once I was a pro, I would say a lot of my advice came from my agent, who had lots of players overseas. Kind of just there's tough days when you're over there by yourself, you're away from your family during the holidays and stuff, and you got to stay motivated, focus on the games. So I'd say my agent was really good at keeping me to stay professional and focus on the season when I was overseas.
Yeah. It's pretty cool that you and your dad both made the NBA.
Yeah.
Well, he was kind of the same. He was drafted.
Mhm.
Bill Russell was his coach when he was drafted.
Oh, yeah.
And then he ended up being the final one cut before they slimmed their roster down. And then he went overseas too and traveled with a American basketball team.
Mm.
Yeah.
What were some things you had to do to prepare for the professional season?
Basically just staying in shape. So after college, my agent moved me out to Vegas, where a bunch of professionals train together, and there's a really good, I guess you could call it, academy, where they control your meals, your workouts, your training. And I would say that was the best thing I ever did going in before I became a pro, because there's not much time. Like in college, you have 4 months on campus before the basketball season starts, or maybe 3 months. In the pros, it's 4 to 6 weeks of training camp, and then it's right into the season. So you have to go into the season ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Prevent any injuries. You can't show up to training camp, a little out of shape, a little overweight, or anything like that. So I would say that's the most important thing as a pro going into the season in preparation.
In your career, like, did you ever have any big setbacks, any major injuries or anything like that?
I was fortunate enough to stay healthy. Couple ankle sprains. I had a little knee problem one year, but took an injection and it healed it. Never had a problem again. My only major injury was when I was in Israel. I took a charge in practice A guy came flying down the lane. He was mad or at the coach or something.
Yeah.
I took a charge. Shouldn't have done it. You never should risk an injury as a pro, especially in practice. Landed on my tailbone pretty hard, and it like just crunched my L4, L5, and I had a herniated disc. Lost like some nerve damage, so I missed the rest of that season. Came back to Alexandria and had Dr. Lindley, and he was recommended to me, so I had a back surgery that year. I think they call it a mastectomy. But ever since I had that surgery, I've been completely healthy, and that was probably my only major injury in my whole career.
It's good that you came back from it, though.
Yeah, it was very up in the air whether, because some people have back problems and they never fully heal.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty fortunate to get another 4 or 5 years out of my career after that happened.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I got another question. This is kind of going off the basketball topic, but this summer when I would go golfing, I always saw you golfing out there at Waska. How's your golf game looking?
So I decided I was going to retire from basketball probably January, February this year, and I was so excited to focus on my golf game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this summer was the worst I've golfed in my whole life. So I think I hyped myself up so much because I'm in that, men's league or whatever you want to call it. And I was looking forward to making playoffs, and me and my partner missed playoffs. So it was a bummer of a summer. I'm going to spend this winter focusing on my golf game.
Maybe take some lessons.
Yeah, I think that would be very beneficial.
Alrighty. Do you ever want to be a coach of some kind?
I've thought about it. There's been opportunities out there, but right now I'm focused on being home with my family. I just passed my real estate exams, and now I'm going to be a realtor at Glenwood State Bank. So I think if I do any coaching, it's just going to start at the local level around Minnewaska or anybody else. But I don't think a coach, just kind of advisor, mentor, help at a practice here and there if I can.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't say no to in 3-5 years, maybe an opportunity comes up that makes sense after life slowed down a little bit. But for now, I'm excited to be home with my family. We live in Glenwood, and it feels very good to be home this time of the year. I love football season, and
Me too.
I always miss it being
Mm-hmm.
overseas. So now I'm excited for Saturday and Sunday watching the games.
Absolutely.
Sure.
What advice do you have for kids that want to maybe go to the next level?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, never get discouraged too much. There's a lot of people that think they're going to be superstars when they're younger, but it's a grind. You got to keep battling. Never let down any hopes. I would say just stay focused, be a good teammate, work on your game, show up to practice with a good attitude every day. Spend the off seasons showing you're dedicated to the game, and I think that'll get you places if you put in the hard work and dedication and be a good teammate in person.
Absolutely, for sure. All right, I don't think we have any more questions, but thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Thanks
for having me.
It was a lot of fun.
A good time.
Alrighty.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much again.
Pretty cool setup you guys got there.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
Yeah,
We
nice.
get this during school,
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.